Gong Li is more than an actress. She is a cinematic force of nature, a figure of breathtaking talent whose career was forged in brilliance, defiance, and scandal. For decades, she has been the face of Chinese cinema to the world, delivering performances of unforgettable power. But behind the awards and the international acclaim lies a far more complex story. It's a tale of a young artist who challenged a powerful government, a global superstar who made a choice that branded her a traitor in her own country, and an established icon forced to navigate the treacherous political currents of a new era. Her journey is a gripping saga of artistic integrity, clashing with national pride and personal freedom, clashing with public expectation. For more deep dives into the lives of the world's most fascinating figures, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. In the late 1980s, Chinese cinema was jolted awake by a cinematic thunderclap named Red Sorghum. At its heart was a young, unknown actress with a gaze that held both fierce defiance and deep vulnerability. Gong Li, then a student at the Central Academy of Drama in Beijing, was handpicked by the visionary director Zhang Yimou to be the soul of his explosive debut. She was not the delicate, demure heroine audiences were used to. She was earthy, passionate, and radiated a raw strength that felt entirely new. The film, a whirlwind of vibrant color and untamed emotion, set against the stark landscape of rural China, became a sensation. It not only won the prestigious Golden Bear at the Berlin International Film Festival, a first for a Chinese film, but it also launched Gong Li and Zhang Yimou into the stratosphere as the brilliant, rebellious new faces of their nation's art. This was the beginning of one of modern cinema's most legendary partnerships. Gong Li became Zhang Yimou's muse, the physical embodiment of the complex, resilient women who populated his stories. She was the perfect instrument for the fifth generation of filmmakers, a group of directors who had lived through the Cultural Revolution and were eager to explore its scars and China's troubled history with a critical, unflinching eye. Together, they crafted a series of masterpieces that would define an era. In Judo, she played a young woman sold to an abusive old man, who then starts a forbidden affair with his nephew. The film was a lush, tragic exploration of repressed desire and the brutal consequences of a rigid, feudal system. Then came Race the Red Lantern, perhaps their most iconic collaboration. As the fourth wife of a wealthy master, Gong Li navigated the suffocating, ritualized cruelty of a patriarchal household. Her performance was a masterclass in subtlety, her face a canvas of slowly extinguished hope. While these films were being celebrated around the world, collecting awards at Cannes and Venice and earning Oscar nominations, they faced a very different reality back home. A significant and persistent difficulty in Gong Li's early career was the shadow of government censorship. Her most acclaimed works were often deemed too dark, too critical, and too sexually frank by Chinese authorities. Judo and Raise the Red Lantern were both initially banned in mainland China. The government was uncomfortable with films that portrayed the nation's past as anything less than heroic. This created a bizarre paradox for the young actress. She was being hailed internationally as the face of Chinese cinema, a world-class talent on par with any in Hollywood or Europe. Yet the very people whose culture she represented were forbidden from seeing her most powerful performances. She became an artistic outlaw in her own country, a global superstar whose greatest triumphs were officially invisible at home. This tension defined her status, making her a symbol of artistic courage in the face of state control. The creative fire between Gong Li and Zhang Yimou was fueled by a deep and intense personal connection that soon spilled over from the film set into their private lives. Their collaboration bled into a long-term romantic relationship, a fact that did not go unnoticed by the public or the press. This added another layer of controversy to her burgeoning career. Zhang Yimou was a married man, and in the more socially conservative China of the early 1990s, their affair was a significant scandal. It became fodder for relentless gossip and media scrutiny, casting a shadow over their professional achievements. For Gong Li, the controversy was twofold. She was already challenging political norms with her films. Now, she was challenging social conventions with her personal life. The defiant, strong-willed women she portrayed on screen, women who fought against their oppressive circumstances, seemed to mirror her own reality. She was living a life that refused to conform to expectations, both as an artist and as a woman. This melding of her on-screen persona and off-screen life solidified her image as a figure of rebellion. She was not just playing a part, she was living it. By the end of the decade, her position was cemented. She was the undisputed queen of Chinese cinema, an international icon whose name was synonymous with quality and artistic integrity. But her path had not been simple. It was forged in a crucible of state censorship and public scandal, establishing a pattern of defiance that would follow her for the rest of her celebrated and complex career. As the new millennium dawned, Gong Li stood at a crossroads. She was no longer just the face of Chinese art house cinema. She was a global entity, an actress whose reputation for intensity and depth preceded her. The world's most renowned directors knew her name, and Hollywood, which had long been enamored with her work from afar, began to call. Her transition was not a tentative step, but a confident stride onto the world stage. She chose her English language roles with care, ensuring they possessed the same gravity and complexity that had defined her career. Her international arrival was fully announced in the lush, sweeping epic memoirs of a geisha. While she did not play the lead, her portrayal of the beautiful, cruel, and ultimately tragic geisha Hatsumomo was the film's magnetic core. Acting in phonetic English, she commanded every scene she was in, her performance a tempest of jealousy, pride, and desperation. She proved that her power as an actress transcended language, captivating a massive Western audience that was largely unfamiliar with her earlier work. She continued to dismantle any notion that she could be typecast, following up the historical drama with the sleek, modern grit of Michael Mann's Miami Vice. Here, she was Isabella, the savvy and sophisticated lover of a dangerous drug lord. She was cool, intelligent, and exuded a worldly confidence that made her a credible and compelling figure in a high-stakes world of international crime. Standing alongside Hollywood heavyweights like Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx, she was not just an exotic addition, but an equal force, a testament to her versatile and commanding screen presence. The pinnacle of this era, however, was a film that brought her back to China, but on a scale grander than anything she had ever done before. Curse of the Golden Flower was a reunion with director Zhang Yimou, a magnificent, eye-popping spectacle of imperial intrigue. As the tormented empress, trapped in a gilded cage of secrets and poison, Gong Li delivered a performance of staggering power. Amidst the jaw-dropping sets and legions of extras, her portrayal of a woman slowly unraveling under the weight of betrayal and ambition was the film's tragic, beating heart. It was the highest-grossing Chinese film of its time, a global blockbuster that confirmed her status as cinematic royalty. She had reached the summit, adored abroad and celebrated once more at home for a monumental Chinese production. She was arguably the most successful actress her country had ever produced. And it was at this precise moment of triumph that she made a decision that would irrevocably alter her relationship with her homeland. In 2008, a year of immense national pride for China as it hosted the Beijing Olympic Games, news broke that Gong Li was relinquishing her Chinese passport. She had taken the oath of citizenship in Singapore, the home country of her then-husband. To the international community, this was a minor personal footnote in the life of a global celebrity. To the Chinese public, it was a bombshell. The backlash was immediate, widespread, and deeply personal. On internet forums and in newspaper editorials, the public sentiment was one of betrayal and abandonment. The criticism was relentless. How could the woman who had so powerfully embodied the soul of Chinese womanhood on screen choose to no longer be Chinese? The timing felt particularly egregious to many. In a year when national identity and pride were at an all-time high, their most famous cultural ambassador was, in their eyes, turning her back on them. She was accused of being unpatriotic, of cashing in on her Chinese fame only to discard her heritage when it was convenient. The term running dog, a harsh insult for a traitor, was thrown around. Her identity, which had been so intertwined with the story of modern China, was now being publicly questioned by millions of her own people. The controversy was not a fleeting media storm. It was a deep wound to the collective psyche of a fan base that had once revered her unconditionally. Faced with this firestorm of criticism, Gong Li did not launch a desperate public relations campaign or issue a tearful apology. Instead, she met the difficulty with the same quiet stoicism and unbending will that characterized so many of her on-screen roles. She remained largely silent on the matter, and when she did address it, her statements were brief and firm. She explained it was a personal choice tied to her family, and she did not feel she owed an explanation to the public. She asserted her belief that it did not matter what passport she held. She would always be a Chinese person. This response, however, did little to soothe the public anger. To her critics, her refusal to engage felt like arrogance, a confirmation that she no longer cared about the feelings of the people who had made her a star. For Gong Li, it was a difficult and isolating period. She had successfully navigated the complexities of state censorship and the scandal of a public affair. But navigating the wounded pride of a billion people was a different challenge altogether. Her decision and her cool handling of the fallout solidified her image as a fiercely independent woman. But it also created a chasm between her and her home country, a painful rift that would linger for years to come. Entering the 2010s, Gong Li had evolved into something more than just a movie star. She was an institution. The fierce public storm over her Singaporean citizenship had subsided into a quieter, more settled reality. She operated with the serene confidence of an artist who had nothing left to prove. Her film choices became more infrequent and deliberate, each role feeling like a significant cultural event rather than just another job. She had earned the luxury of being selective, and she used it to take on parts that resonated with her legendary status. In 2020, she returned to the global stage in Disney's live-action epic, Mulan. Cast as the powerful sorceress Xian Yang, a character created for the film, she could have easily delivered a one-dimensional villain. Instead, she imbued the witch with a tragic depth and a compelling motivation, making her a figure of sympathy and menace. Her performance was widely hailed as the most captivating element of the entire blockbuster, a potent reminder to international audiences of the gravitas she could bring to any production. In that same year, she undertook a role that was deeply significant within China, starring in the patriotic blockbuster Leap. She portrayed Lang Ping, the revered real-life coach who led the Chinese women's national volleyball team to Olympic glory. The part required a remarkable transformation. Gong Li spent extensive time with the team, studying Lang Ping's mannerisms, her posture, and her distinct way of speaking. Her portrayal was not just an impersonation, but a full-bodied inhabitation of a national hero. The film was a massive success and a celebration of Chinese spirit and perseverance. For Gong Li, taking on such a role was seen by many as a powerful statement. It was an embrace of a story of national pride, a move that reconnected her with the mainland audience and garnered her widespread acclaim, including top acting awards across Asia. For a time, it seemed she had successfully bridged the gap that had opened years before, her towering talent allowing her to exist as both a global icon and a celebrated figure at home. However, the cultural and political landscape in China was shifting dramatically. By the early 2000s and 20s, a new and fervent wave of nationalism was sweeping the country, and the government began to exert much tighter control over the entertainment industry. This movement, often referred to as a rectification campaign, targeted what it deemed undesirable elements among celebrities, including tax evasion, scandalous personal behavior, and, most pointedly, foreign nationality. The climate grew increasingly tense. Holding a foreign passport, once seen as a symbol of global success for a Chinese star, was suddenly being recast as a mark of disloyalty. It became a significant liability in an industry where patriotic credentials were now paramount. In this hyper-nationalistic environment, Gong Li's decade-old decision to become a Singaporean citizen was dragged back into the spotlight. The past controversy was no longer just a memory of public debate. It was reanimated as a pressing and potentially career-threatening political problem. Old criticisms resurfaced with renewed vigor, but this time they were amplified by the implicit threat of official sanction. It was during this period that widespread reports began to circulate, spreading like wildfire across social media and international news outlets. The stories, though never officially confirmed by Gong Li or her representatives, alleged that she was among a list of celebrities with foreign passports who were being heavily pressured to renounce their adopted citizenship and reapply for a Chinese one. This created a profound and difficult dilemma. The defiant choice she had made as a private individual years ago was now clashing with the powerful machinery of the state. The question hanging in the air was whether the actress who had built her career on portraying unbending women and had herself defied convention for decades would now have to bend. Was this a genuine change of heart, or was it a calculated move to protect her legacy and her ability to continue working in the country that was still the heart of her film industry? The silence from her camp only fueled the speculation, leaving the public to wonder about the immense pressures working behind the scenes. The situation was a stark illustration of how even the most established icon was not immune to the changing political tides. The sensitivity of the era was highlighted by a seemingly minor incident that nonetheless sparked its own small controversy. During this period of heightened scrutiny, Gong Li appeared on the cover of a major fashion magazine. On the cover, she wore an Adidas top. Under normal circumstances, it would have been an unremarkable fashion choice. But these were not normal times. Adidas was one of several Western brands facing significant consumer boycotts in China over its public statements expressing concern about the alleged use of forced labor in the Xinjiang region. To many nationalist internet users, her choice to wear the brand was seen as tone-deaf at best, and a provocative political statement at worst. The swift online criticism demonstrated the new reality for Chinese celebrities. Every single choice, no matter how small, was now subject to intense political interpretation. For an icon like Gong Li, who had always operated on her own terms, the field of acceptable action had become perilously narrow, forcing her to navigate a treacherous landscape where a whisper could become a roar and a personal choice could be deemed a public betrayal. From the fiery muse of a rebellious new cinema to a global icon navigating Hollywood, Gong Li's path has been one of constant negotiation. She built a legacy on portraying women who refused to be silenced while living a life that mirrored that same defiance. The very independence that made her a star also led to her most profound conflict, creating a painful rift with the homeland she had so powerfully represented on screen. Today, she remains a revered figure, a legend whose earlier battles have given way to a quieter, more calculated navigation of modern pressures. Her story is a powerful testament to the complexities of fame, identity, and survival in a world where art and politics are forever intertwined, leaving us to wonder what defines the legacy of an artist who dared to live on her own terms. What do you think? Let us know in the comments and subscribe for more incredible life stories.